The mother of one of the most famous queens of Great Britain, Victoria, was Duchess Marie-Louise Victoria of Saxe-Coburg, a woman who had not only great looks, but also intelligence. Unfortunately, Victoria's daughter did not get her mother's beauty. The queen inherited features from her father. Despite this, Victoria inherited longevity from her mother, which she later passed on to her descendants. Maria Victoria of Saxe-Coburg was a woman of high cunning. It was largely thanks to her that her daughter reached the royal throne of England. To achieve this goal, Duchess Victoria endured hardships and even humiliation from the royal family. Famous brother and sister. Born in 1786 in Coburg, Germany, Victoria of Saxe-Coburg was the seventh child of Duke Franz of Saxe-Coburg. The Duchess's brother, Leopold, subsequently married Princess Charlotte of Wales and subsequently became King of Belgium. Victoria's sister, Juliana of Saxe-Coburg-Saalfeld, married Grand Duke Konstantin Pavlovich. First marriage. At the age of 17, Victoria was married to Prince Karl of Leiningen, who was 23 years older than her. With this husband, Victoria gave birth to two children, a son, Karl, and a daughter, Theodora. However, after 8 years of marriage, Victoria's husband died. The princess became regent for her minor son and took over the administration of the Principality of Leiningen. Second marriage. Immediately after the death of her first husband, Victoria received a marriage proposal from Duke Edward of Kent, the son of King George III of England. Nevertheless, the widow refused him, declaring that she had decided to devote her whole life to children and the management of the principality. In reality, Victoria sought to preserve her independence. A year after these events, in 1817, the Princess of Wales, the wife of Victoria's brother, Leopold, passed away. Charlotte was the only legitimate heir to the throne of England, and this threatened the future of the Hanoverian dynasty. Charlotte had 3 uncles, among whom was Edward of Kent. However, none of them had heirs of their own. To save the dynasty, the Duke of Kent began actively looking for a wife. Leopold, Victoria's widowed husband, persuaded the Duke to make a new attempt to woo her sister. Victoria also tried to refuse the groom's offer this time, seeing him as unattractive and incompatible with herself. Nevertheless, Leopold and Edward of Kent eventually managed to persuade the Duchess, and she agreed to the marriage. The birth of Victoria's daughter. In England at that time, there was a high mortality rate from diseases. In light of this, Victoria and her husband decide to move to live in Germany. In addition, the Duke of Kent has already begun to face financial difficulties. In Germany, Princess Victoria became pregnant. Edward wanted their child to be born on English soil, so the couple returned to Britain. In May 1819, Victoria gave birth to a daughter, who was named Alexandrina Victoria. She became the future Queen of England. After the birth of her daughter, due to financial difficulties, the family was forced to move to Devon. Here, the couple lived incognito. However, soon Duke Edward fell ill with severe pneumonia. Medics failed to save him, the 5th applicant in the queue. 6 days after the Duke's death, his father, King George III, also left this world. Edward's brother, George IV, ascended to the throne. This king, as well as his other brothers, had no direct heirs. Consequently, the prospects for the English throne arose from the infant daughter of the Princess of Saxe-Coburg-Saalfeld, Victoria. The girl occupied only the 5th place in the order of succession to the throne. Nevertheless, Duchess Victoria, being a visionary woman, decided to bet on her daughter. Deprivation for the sake of the future. If the Duchess of Kent had wished, she could have gone to Germany, where living costs were much lower than in England. At home, she and her children could live without unnecessary difficulties, even on their modest incomes. However, Victoria chose to stay in Britain. In this regard, she had to take on the debts of her deceased husband, and their amount was considerable. In order to make ends meet, Victoria even had to turn to Parliament for help. However, she was refused, and the Parliament did not consider the younger Victoria as a serious candidate for the English throne. The Duchess of Kent had to settle into a dilapidated Kensington palace and lead a life in difficult conditions with children. The only real support point for Victoria at that time was her brother Leopold. After the death of George IV, the 60-year-old William IV ascended to the English throne, who had no legitimate heirs. the chances of Victoria, the daughter of the Duchess, to the throne have increased significantly. The family could finally relax. Parliament has established a substantial allowance for Victoria. Dislike of monarchs and gossip. However, the royal family still did not show favor to Duchess Victoria. Unpleasant rumors circulated around her, and she was considered a woman with rude manners. After the death of her second husband, the Duchess of Kent did not remarry. Nevertheless, there was talk in court circles that she had several love affairs. Strict upbringing of a daughter. While raising her daughter, the future Queen of England, Victoria adhered to extremely strict methods. The princess even developed her own parenting system, dubbed the Kensington system. The Duchess dreamed of a future when she could become regent under Victoria and actually rule the whole of England. To do this, she sought to make her daughter as dependent on herself as possible. Young Victoria was limited in communication with people whom her mother considered undesirable, including her father's relatives. The Duchess also strictly controlled any manifestations of sexual obscenity in her daughter. In this regard, Victoria of Kent is sometimes considered one of the reasons for the subsequent strictness and moral norms of the Victorian era in England. Nevertheless, in November 1831, the Duchess managed to achieve her goal. Parliament announced that if Victoria ascended the throne, her mother would become the only regent capable of ruling the kingdom in her absence. Quarrel with the king. Despite their discontent with her mother, the king and queen had tender feelings for the young heiress Victoria. However, the Duchess, feeling offended by the royal family, tried hard to limit her daughter's contacts with the monarchs. In the end, the exasperated king decided to publicly show his opinion about the Duchess. At one of the banquets, in the presence of many, he declared his hope to live to the age of 18 for Victoria, so that her mother would not have the opportunity to become regent. Quarrel with the daughter queen. In the end, that's exactly what happened. Victoria ascended the throne as an adult girl. Her mother, and especially her close advisor and lover, Peer John Conroy, tried to put pressure on the Queen and influence the politics of England. However, Victoria turned out to be a stubborn girl. Conroy's attempts to influence her caused negative consequences for both him and the Duchess of Kent. After John tried to get Victoria to appoint him as her secretary when she was seriously ill and weakened, the Queen dismissed both him and her mother from the court. Reconciliation. Peace between the Queen and the Duchess of Kent was restored only after the Queen gave birth to her first daughter. The Duchess has once again become close to Victoria's inner circle. She remained on good terms with her daughter until her death. Duchess Victoria passed away in 1861, having reached the age of 74. When Queen Victoria read her mother's papers, she was amazed. It turned out that the Duchess loved her very much all her life, although she did not always express it explicitly. Hemophilia. Even after the death of the Duchess of Kent, unpleasant rumors about her continued to circulate. Some researchers even expressed the opinion that Victoria could not be the daughter of the Duke of Kent at all. Such statements are caused by the fact that the Queen of England transmitted hemophilia, which later manifested itself in her son, Nicholas II. However, there were no known cases of hemophilia in the family of the Dukes of Kent, nor in the family of the Queen's mother, Duchess Victoria of Saxe-Coburg-Saalfeld. However, it is important to note that hemophilia can manifest spontaneously in 30% of cases, as medical studies show.